On today's episode, we talk about cycling. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the 84th episode of the Foundation First Fitness Show. I have a good friend of mine here stopping by to talk to us about cycling and really understanding kind of the equipment and what goes into that, picking the equipment, understanding what you need to know, really the fine details of that stuff, because I think it's a really interesting field. There's so many things that are important when trying to decide on that. So I wanted to bring you in. I think you're the expert in this. You know more about this than I barely even know anything about bikes. So I'm pretty happy that you're here. Thanks for being here. I'm going to let you kind of give them and all the listeners a little bit of an intro on yourself, talking a bit about what you do, how you got into cycling and all that stuff. And we can just kind of take it from there.
Well, first, thanks for having me.
No problem.
My name is Pierre Paul. I'm the owner of Cycle Paul. We're a family business. We've been established since 1948.
1948?
Yeah. So my grandfather started the business as like a rental only thing in the 40s and eventually was passed down to my dad. And then I took over in 2013.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
So business ownership, how's that like?
It's good. It's different. It's got challenges.
Yeah.
I took the store and expanded it to a second location also.
Yeah.
It sure comes with a lot of stress levels and, different challenges, but Absolutely. It's good.
We're going to have the store location stuff. It's all going to be linked down below. So in the description on the podcast on YouTube, you'll see the link down below. You'll see social media tags and everything like that. It's all going to be up there, so you guys don't have to worry about that. Cycling. What is I know you guys are, because we talk a lot.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, who've never, those of you who are listening, you obviously don't know this, but we do spend a lot of time. Whenever you drop by the office, we drop by the store, there's always some discussion going on about cycling, the posture on the bike. And I think that's a really important topic. So maybe touch on a bit of that.
So one of our specialties is bike fit, and where we come in together and work a lot together is not all issues are bike fit issues. Sometimes it's an injury. And, that's when I request your help. Maybe you have input or I send you the customer, because at that point it's not something that I can really solve. But what bike fit is the optimization of the bike to fit you better so that you can ride longer, faster, and more comfortably.
Which is the most important thing.
Which is the most important thing. So, you want to do the Tour de l'Île, you want to do a Grand Fondo, a triathlon. If you're poorly fitted, you're going to have a poor experience.
Right.
Obviously bike fit also goes through, make sure you have the right seat, but also make sure you have the right bike, the right dimension, and so on.
When it comes to bike fitting, what are you looking at exactly? Like what are the parameters that you're looking for?
All sorts. Saddle height being the main one that everybody thinks that a bike fit is the only saddle height.
Right.
But we look at,
because that's all I knew. Like if someone comes up to me and says bike fit, I'm like, push the seat forward, lift the seat up.
And it's a lot more complicated than that. But some of the stuff we look at, obviously, like I said, the saddle height, but the saddle setback, the saddle choice, saddle width, the shoes, the insoles, the cleats. So the cleats is the piece that screws onto your shoe that allows you to clip into your pedals.
Okay.
There's something called float. So the amount of movement that you'll have in that pedal. Do you have too much movement? Do you have enough movement? Is the movement on the right side? So, is your foot able to rotate through the whole float on both directions, or you have only float on one direction because your cleat's not set up correctly? Then we fall into the handlebar. Is it the right width? Is it the right distance? Is it high enough? Is it low enough? Are you as aerodynamic as you can be? Mm-hmm. Are you in a position that's causing you back pain? So too aggressive for what your fitness level is able to do. So those are all the parameters that we try to balance. And we also try to balance your weight distribution on the bike, making sure the bike's going to handle correctly.
Okay.
So it gets technical. But that's what we do. We have a camera, we have motion capture, and then we film the cyclist at slow motion, 60 frames per second. And
you can slow it down.
We slow it down, and then we look. When your foot's all the way down, is the knee angle correct? Is the ankle angle correct? When your cranks are level, or is the knee too far forward? The pedal axle, is it too far back? Mm-hmm. We look at the angle of your sacrum. You know, some people are very flexible off the bike, and that doesn't show when they're on the bike.
Right. Everything changes the second they hit that. So.
Yeah, but you know, your brain's really smart, and if your saddle's uncomfortable and your hips, and it hurts if you rotate your hips on the bike,
You're just not going to.
You're just not going to. But if you're able to do it off the bike, you should be able to do it on the bike.
Right. So there's that understanding of like someone can move really well when they're off the bike, but when they get on the bike, they could be running into their problems that they can easily just solve with a nice fit.
Exactly. And you know, that's also the reason why when we do a fit, it's a 2-hour process. Mm-hmm. So, you know, in our industry, everybody gives out a fit with a bike. It's not really a fit, it's a sizing.
Okay.
So we make sure we take some basic measurements. We make sure it's the right size frame. We make sure that, you know, you're not in a position that will cause any injuries. It's a neutral position, but it's not an optimization. It's not a fit fully. Right. When we do a fit, we do the physical evaluation first. And by doing that, I know how flexible you are. I know how strong you are. I check your core strength. I check your flexibility, range of motion. If you get on the bike and that doesn't match the physical evaluation, then there's an issue somewhere. There's a component somewhere causing an issue.
Right.
If I do the physical eval and, you know, you're as solid as a 2x4 and flexible like a rod of iron, you're not going to be on the bike. Yeah. So even if you have this mental image that you're going to be super aggressive position like a professional rider, it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But then at least I know, so I can manage expectation as we're going into the fit session and go like, look, we've done all these tests and you know how you benchmark. That's just what you want. How you want to look is not going to match.
It's not going to be how.
Yeah.
It's almost like the understanding the reality of it.
Exactly.
Making the I guess the customer understand and the cyclist understand that, you know, we need to put you in the best position for you to be able to function
that
optimally.
You can sustain today.
Right.
And, you know, ultimately is if we don't do that, then when you go out, you have a bad experience. Exactly. And you ride 1 hour and you're in pain and you think cycling is just not for you.
Yeah, and you think it's the bike or you think it's just this or you think it's that and you start just fiddling and stuff.
I've heard people, like I've had racers with really high pain threshold who, you know, I didn't know my back wasn't supposed to hurt. I've had somebody make that comment. I was like, really? You race triathlon. You should know that
your back's not supposed to hurt. Like that's not a good
But that was her benchmark. Her back always hurt. And then when we did the fit and her back didn't hurt, she was just blown away that was a possibility.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And so when you do the bike fit, I guess the ultimate goal is to make them move more efficiently.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. So we're trying to keep the movement as fluid as possible. Trying to make sure they're not bouncing around on the saddle. We're not trying to make sure that there's not going to be any source of discomfort.
Okay. And how often should they be getting fitted? Is this like a one-time thing with that same bike, or should they be, can things adjust? Because I know we know that people adjust in time.
Yeah. So a fit should be done. Professional cyclists is done every year, even I believe more than once a year for some cyclists.
Okay.
Yeah. A serious cyclist, I'd say every 2 years.
Okay. Depending on if they make any drastic changes outside of.
Of course. And a recreational cyclist, maybe 3 to 4 years. You lose 20 pounds, needs to get redone.
Okay, so any drastic changes in either movement capacity, I guess
weight change,
physique change, anything that could potentially throw it off. So almost what they should be looking for is they get the fitting done, they start biking, pain goes away, problems go away. If that was the case, if the problem goes away with the fitting, they start cycling, everything's going well. 6 months, 8 months down the road, they start making changes in their health, eating habits, all this stuff, weight changes, they start noticing problems again. That's when they should be coming in to get fit.
Yep. And I have customers who have multiple fits done. I have many customers who have done it, every year, every second year. Those are, not necessarily professionals, because I don't deal with, the racers I do. The racers that come to me are amateur cyclists. They don't race professionally, but they're enough into it that they'll get it done every year. And we see changes, and it's never big. And it used to be, if you look back at fit history, 20, 30 years ago, when my dad first started, it was called the Fit Kit, and it was a list of body measurements. We threw that in a calculator, and it told you how the bike should measure up.
Right.
It didn't account flexibility. It didn't account injuries. It didn't account range of motion. It didn't account maybe your knee joint on one side doesn't close as much as...
It was like perfect scenario.
Exactly. It wasn't very good. Some people were still in pain, but that's what we knew back then.
That's what we had back then. Yeah.
Right now, I think there's only two measurements that I take, body measurements, and it's the inseam and the shoulder width. That's it.
Okay.
Everything else is really going to be range of motion, strength.
Really more functional stuff.
Exactly. And that evolves. That changes. Your inseam and your shoulder width's not going to change as you get older.
But everything else is
going to change. So it used to be people think that they got fitted and was fit for life because they don't grow anymore.
Right.
So your frame size won't change.
Right. Structurally, you're not going to be like, your shoulders aren't going to get wide.
We're not changing your frame size. We're not changing your handlebar width, but we might change the reach of your handlebar because maybe you lost a little bit in flexibility. We might change your saddle because maybe the way how tight your hamstrings are, you might not be able to rotate as much. You're not sitting on the saddle the same way. So we need to change the saddle because you're not interacting with it the same way anymore. Maybe we're changing the pedals to get more float because you sustained a knee injury and you need a little bit more movement. So those are all the factors but that's not measurements, and that's stuff that constantly evolves.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I like it. I think there's information for everyone to be able to see this on your website, or they can come in store.
We don't have information out there because it's a process that we do. If they go on the website, we have like a list of the services that we offer.
Okay, so
it explains a little bit what we do.
I mean, I think this is probably more extensive than what's going to be
exactly. And that's the thing is there's a lot of information on the internet about how to do a bike fit and stuff like that. I think a lot of that stuff is more geared towards sizing, than actual fitting. Even throughout all the courses that I've done, and the first time I actually got certified for fitting, I was 18 years old, and the fitter who was giving the course at the time, he said, "You're the youngest I've ever certified."
Wow.
But it still took probably like 1,000 fits after that before I could tell you, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it was still like a long process.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. There's still things that I'm going like, I don't know.
Just because of how everything, because it's so interesting how like that body can shift the slightest bit,
and everybody's different.
Exactly.
And everybody's different.
No one's gonna. It's almost like that experience of having like seen so many things that you're kind of in a ballpark of where It's kind of like what I do. I mean, someone comes in, I walk. I'm making an educated guess as to what they need to work on. Does it always work exactly as I'd like? No. I mean, I feel like we go in the right direction for the most part, and then we just make a slight adjustment as it goes.
Just like when you finish school, you think you know everything, and then you start your career, and 5 years in, you realize, whoa, like I didn't know anything that I thought I did. It's like, exactly.
It's a totally different world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So bike fitting was a little bit like that for me too. I started and I thought like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm certified. But after you've done so many, you realize, I'm always going to learn. There's always going to be new things, and products are changing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking of products, let's say someone comes in. This is they're either buying their first bike, or they're purchasing a new bike, or they have a bike and they want to make some adjustments. What are the three things you would tell these people to look for when making a purchase? What is the most valuable purchase they can make?
Well, it depends because there's a lot of questions in there. So let's bring it down. So you're buying a new bike.
Okay, buying a new bike. Let's go with that because I think that's probably.
So you're buying your first road bike or your new road bike. What are the things you should know? Your objectives with the bike. So how often you're going to ride this bike. How long your ride's going to be. Your fitness level. What your goals are fitness wise too. If you're just really recreational cyclists and you're not doing this to improve your fitness, whether you're getting into this because you aspire to race one day, well, your needs are going to change for that bike. So
understanding what your goal is with this,
the
purpose of this.
Yeah, because otherwise we can't really guide you through the process.
Right.
And also being able to realize that maybe what you think you want is a really race bike, but if you're not into the physical shape to ride that bike, that might not be what you need. It might be what you want, but not be what you need.
Okay.
So that's where we come in. When you come in for a new bike, and we don't really do like a full fit process, but we ask questions and we evaluate you, and we're trying to benchmark you where you fit, and that's what we're trying to come to a conclusion is, okay, so you want the hyper race bike. Maybe you're not there yet today. So let's find you something that's going to get you close to that feeling, but you're going to be able to ride for a long time and have a good time. And then maybe you'll graduate to a race bike one day, but maybe that's not what you want. Or we have people come in and, they want a gravel bike, because that's what everybody's talking about gravel bikes now. Everybody wants a gravel bike. Everybody wants an SUV. Who goes off-roading?
Yeah, who really needs the SUV?
Exactly. So how many people need a Jeep Rubicon when they really need a Hyundai Kona?
Yeah.
So it's people want a gravel bike. Where are you going to ride this bike? On the street. Okay. But the potholes. We'll find you a road bike that's more relaxed, maybe not a race bike, but that's going to be better suited for that.
Yeah.
And that's the important bit, is knowing what you want, how you want to use the bike, so that we can guide you through that. Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the most, I think people generally have like some kind of perception of what they want things to be like, but it's not really the case. So
Exactly.
Go in kind of making a random purchase and then regretting it and coming to you and being like, oh. So let me take that and touch on that on the fitting stuff. Should they be getting fitted then the bike, or is it the other way around?
It's a trick question. So the best way of doing it would be getting the fit first and then choosing the bike.
To know what bike is best for you.
Yes, because you might have physical limitation. You might have proportions that are different. And there might be a certain style or geometry that fits you better.
Right. And do you guys, like, let's say someone comes in, you guys are equipped to handle anything.
Yes.
Like if someone comes in, no matter what kind of permutation or what kind of combination of those limb lengths and limitations
you guys
have something.
Yeah, so we have a size cycle, so we can mimic any bike in the world. We can, technically it's what the same tool we would use to make a custom bike.
Okay.
So I can fit you and then go based off those XY measurements.
And if you guys don't have that specific bike in store, you'll order it.
We'll order it.
Okay.
You know, and if one brand B is better than brand A, we'll look at brand B. But we can make, so that's the ultimate best way of doing it. The reality is most people are not doing it that way. They're doing it the other way. They're picking a bike and then getting the fit done, whether it's price point or just the look of the bike or
some kind of thought process they had on this is the type of bike I wanted.
But it's also like that's just the way it was always done. So that's the way people
kind of just did it.
Yeah, but it's not wrong either.
Right.
You know, like unless you really have some weird permutation and
it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Like unless you're really built awkwardly, you know, most of the brands we carry come in 2 centimeter increments for sizing.
Okay, so there's like a huge.
Yeah, there might be one that might be a little bit, you know, there might be a model, because all the models have different geometries that might be a little bit better suited for you. That's true. But even if you have a different model, unless you got the wrong size, we can make it work.
Yeah.
You know.
What is the biggest mistake you see cyclists make when they come in to make a purchase?
The biggest mistake I see cyclists make when they come in for a fit is they have pain. They think it's their bike fit. They come in, they have an injury.
Wow. How often does that happen?
When somebody tells me that they're in pain, I'd say maybe 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3.
Really?
That's why, you know, people come in and want a bike fit. Are you uncomfortable or are you in pain? Uncomfortable, I can fix.
Pain you can't. To some extent.
To some extent. You know, you have a knee injury. I can maybe relieve pressure, work around it, but I'm not fixing a knee injury.
And it's going to come back in some way. It's
exactly. I'm not like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to optimize the bike, but you're the motor. And if the motor's falling apart, I'm not fixing the motor.
Exactly. Right.
That's where you guys come in.
Right.
And I'd say that's the biggest mistake people do. Is they think the bike fit is the magic solution.
So they start buying all these new saddles and everything, and it's just like...
Yeah, we've had customers too, you know, they're on the 3rd or 4th saddle purchase, and we're like telling them, you should really invest into getting a fit. No, I'm close. And it's like...
You would have spent the same amount of money. You would have spent less
money.
Because you've been flying through all these...
Yeah, because we take the guesswork away.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah. And I did a fit last night, this triathlete lady, and she was telling me she had saddle issues. I was like, okay. So we go through the whole interview process. We go, you know, we benchmark her. I have her sit on the bike, and right away I was like, yeah, you do have a saddle issue. Like I can see it right away. I don't even have to film or check anything. Just have a saddle. Yeah. Just the way she was sitting on the bike versus the way everything else looked before we had her on the bike.
So it took away the guesswork. There's no messing around. There's just, this is what you need.
Exactly. And it, you know, I could tell right away. And if I wouldn't have done that, I would have looked at her and say, oh, the bike's a little long. Let's make it a little bit, let's bring that little bars closer. That wasn't the issue. It was a saddle issue. So by allowing her hips to rotate, all of a sudden the handlebar was at the right place.
Wow.
So
Simple.
it's very simple. Her brain tricked her into rotating her sacrum back so that she'd be sitting on the back of the saddle a little bit more, as opposed to be sitting on the front of the saddle. So her back was, you know, instead of being nice and straight, it was curved. And they were like, oh, let's bring handlebars in, it won't be curved anymore. That would have been the simple fix.
Yeah. But it was your saddle that was...
The saddle.
Just adjust, a small adjustment.
Yeah. So replace the saddle, you know, adjust the forehalf, adjust the height, and all of a sudden the rest looked a lot better. We made a lot of other changes, but that probably visually fixed 80% of what was wrong with it.
Absolutely. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think this information is like super important for, you know, anywhere from recreational to competitive or someone who's looking to be competitive. I think, you know, when it comes to purchasing equipment, it's one of the most important things. I mean, I've dealt with it with hockey players and different things and all these other sports, and really understanding the needs versus the wants is really
that's the biggest. That's a big thing too. But also, you know, being honest with your answers too. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and being honest with yourself in terms of where your fitness is and where your flexibility is and all that stuff. And you know, if you don't answer those questions honestly, then
accountability is so huge.
Yeah, then we can't guide you through it.
We can't guide you. Absolutely. You're not willing to learn. You're
not
because
through this whole process, really what we are is a guide. We're there to, you know, navigate you through the process so you can understand which product might be better suited for you. But we're going off, you know, the information we're getting from you.
And honestly, I think the interesting thing is that it's such a small price to pay when you're making such a large price purchase to be making a wrong purchase. You know what I mean? It's like it's you wouldn't pick a house that has 5'5" ceilings from looking at it from the outside because you're like, I like the way it looks. Yeah. But everyone in the family is 6 foot plus. Mm-hmm. You're gonna get in there, you're gonna have problems, you're gonna be upset with me. So just, of course. I understand too. There's cyclists who are new. It's their first bike. They're buying a price point bike. You know, the cost of this process can be, you know, a fourth of what the initial bike price is going to cost. And they don't want to go through a process. They want to buy a bike, see if they're going to get into it, and leave that style of purchase to, you know, a future purchase. Yeah, and I get that. I empathize with. I can empathize with that. Yeah, but you know, you get to a certain point, and cycling's your thing. You have no choice. Like it's not that you have no choice. It's that you shouldn't allow it to become a choice. It shouldn't be like that much of a thought process. It should just be, let's just do it. And then you can buy the best bike for you. Exactly. I think so. Yeah. Listen, I appreciate you coming in. Yeah. Talking about this. I think there's so much information. I think a lot of our listeners who are in the cycling world are going to honestly be blown away with, because I think it's such important information. Anything that we spoke about today, if you guys have any information, have any questions, I'll make sure to get those questions answered by Pierre-Paul. If you guys want to drop by the store and ask him directly, information for the store is going to be down there. Thank you again for being here. And until that next time, guys, keep building that foundation. Take care.